Once you have signed up on PeopleRadius, setting up your company to start using the system is easy. Log in with the credentials you created when setting up your account and follow the setup wizard to set things up. This video walks you through the various steps of the setup wizard. Remember, none of the steps is mandatory, and you can choose to proceed with the defaults. You can always come back to change things once you have set them up. Of course, the minimum setup you need to use PeopleRadius is to set up some employees and job titles. Let us now look at the wizard. The first setup screen allows you to set up what you want your organization's virtual currency to be called. You can leave the default as reward dollars or R dollars for short, or set your own terminology up. You can also decide what your users will be called. The default is employee and can be changed at any time. We are going to leave this setting as it is for the time being. In the email template screen, you can set the text and format for the welcome email that goes out to new users when they are created. The name and email refer to the sender's information on the welcome email. The body of the email has some variables that are substituted appropriately when the email is actually sent. You should feel free to change the text of the emails, or you can leave it as it is to begin with. You can always come back to this screen to change things should you need to. On the next screen, you can select various default parameters for how the system should behave. Each of these options apply globally, but you can override them by using a different setting for each individual employee or job title. By using the custom option, you can set each of these individually, or you can pick from one of the three preset settings that allow you to pick a conservative or an aggressive feedback style. Let's go through some of the more interesting options here. The first setting allows you to set up the default reward dollar allocations for each employee. Allowing clawbacks allows employees to reverse awards in the future once they have granted them. Setting negative feedback to yes allows negative reward dollars to be awarded. You can set the maximum percentage of an employee's allocation that he or she can award to a single other employee. You can also set whether you allow responding to feedback, anonymous feedback, and whether feedback requires approval before it is posted and made visible. On the next screen, you can decide the time windows that you wish to allow this system to remain open. You can set specific days, custom date ranges, or say the last 7 days in any month. For the moment, we will leave this as to be always open. On the next screen, you can set up additional mandatory or optional data fields to capture as part of your employee setup. Note that the title, role, which determines access levels incidentally, and a field to identify an employee's manager are mandatory because they are needed to support the system's workflow. You can enter the field's label, select the type of field it is, decide whether it should be mandatory or optional, and add it by clicking the plus sign. The job title screen allows you to change the default parameters that we had earlier set up at the system level. You could, for example, exempt your managing directors from receiving feedback, yet allow them to provide feedback to others. You could set your associates' feedback to require approvals before it is posted, while letting other titles post without requiring approvals. You can choose whether the approver should be the reviewer's manager or the reviewee's manager. In the next screen, you can decide whether you wish to have a fixed period review cycle that begins and ends on a specified date, or have a rolling review cycle that always looks back a certain number of months, say 6 months at any point in time, for reward computations and comparisons. And due to the differences in the way reward accounting works, this is the only option that cannot be changed once set up. If you're not yet sure, you can leave this option unselected and still use the system and start recording feedback. You can come back and set it up later. You might like to watch a separate video that explains the nuances between these two options. On the next screen, you can set up user groups. By default, each user can only view the feedback either received and provided by him or her. When users belong to groups, they can view the feedback for other employees too, and you can control such access at the most granular level. For example, you may choose to create a group for your Vice President of Sales to allow him to view the data for all employees in his department or those that work in a particular location. And finally, you can import employees using a spreadsheet if you wish to. For the moment, we will set up employees using the self-explanatory standard GUI form here. And that is all that there is to setting up PeopleRadius. Welcome aboard and thank you for watching.